Today on Open Loops, we have Dr. Nitin Bhatnagar, who is a intuitive cardiologist, life architect, and metaphysician. Everything I love to delve into. This guy's going to be great. Nitin, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. My gosh. I think that the person that introduced us, who's been introducing to me a lot of people these days, she was like, you got to talk to this guy. He's an intuitive cardiologist. And I said, what? Because my dad's a radiation oncologist. So I know I like doctorology, but then intuitive and then cardiology, like, it seems like to me, cardiology is such, I mean, especially in a country like the US where like heart problems are so rampant. It seems like it's such a scientific field, a medical field, but then you add intuitive onto it, and it could mean so many things. Like, I'm very curious for my audience, how would you define an intuitive cardiologist?
Um, so, cardiology is itself a science, right? It's the study of the heart, but there's another aspect of the heart. There's the connection of the heart as it delves into its connection with the rest of the universe
Yeah.
via the gateway through your soul. So when you open up your heart with gratitude, you end up connecting yourself to the divinity of the universe. So the intuitive cardiology essentially is I'm bridging the world of traditional cardiology as well as the intuitive world of using the essence of who you truly are,
Mm.
discovering the other aspect of your inner knowing, and
Wow.
connecting to your intuition, because your intuition is essentially like the energy field that resonates around the heart. So you've got the cardiology aspect, which is the physical heart, as it were, but the intuitive is the energetic connection of your heart to the rest of everything else around you. It bridges everything, right? It's not just your physical heart that's in your body and connects to everything and circulating blood flow to the rest of your body, but it's also your gateway to the cosmos.
Wow. Wow. Are you doing surgery?
I do. As a cardiologist, we do. As a physician, I do procedures like pacemakers, cardiac caths, things like that. But as a, that's the true surgery is in the realm of the cardiac surgeons themselves.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, because, I feel like it's such different worlds, right? You've got you go into a hospital, you see a cardiologist, you get the procedure, and then once you start going into like chakra cleansing, right? You get like people at stands in, I mean, where I live, normally New York City, you have like a booth and a window with like a crystal ball and tarot cards spread out, and someone's like, let me cleanse your chakras, and they'll talk about similar things like you're talking about, but like to add cardiology makes it like such like a hard, like, there's a scientific procedure. I mean, I'm curious about what that looks like for you. Like, how do people book you? How do you get, like, what is the work that you're doing exactly?
So, on a regular basis, when I'm doing cardiology, I'll see the patients and we'll do I'll do my usual doctor stuff, right? But however, also in the room, we also will talk about other aspects of what's causing their illness to even start off in the first place. So if you think about disease, right? The term, if you break it apart as dis-ease, there's
Mm,
a obvious change in equilibrium, right? So when you have a psychological imbalance, you end up having a physical manifestation of dis-ease because there's an imbalance of the mind. There's now a illness that forms in your
yeah.
body, and so therefore illness is nothing more than wellness out of balance. So when you start having physical manifestations of disease, it is essentially because there's a psychological imbalance. So when you delve deeper into whatever the cardiac issue is, so for example, let's say somebody's having palpitations. Well, the reason why they're having palpitations or any further arrhythmias, which are essentially irregular heartbeats, or any change in the actual pattern, It's the electrical disturbance that's going on. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a reason
Mm.
as to why the heart that was once in balance is now in out of balance state. And that is probably from, either living a life that's uninspiring, they're depressed, they're anxious. Yes, we know that someone who comes and says, well, I'm having palpitations, and anxiety, it plays a role in it. Stress plays a role in it. But how do you control that stress? How do you control that anxiety? How do you control that depression? How do you control these other out of body states that are actually originating in the mind? Because those are originating from various perceptions of how you filter your environment. So when your perceptions are out of balance, the decisions you make then are also out of balance, and then your actions you take are out of balance.
Yeah.
So then when these are all out of balance, your physical body starts transforming and creating disease because you're not listening to your mind clearly. Therefore, your body's going to start taking over the next level of, the quantum entanglement, as it were, to be able to explore and for you to get back into center. And that's when your intuition keeps kicking in and keeps telling you, nope, you're out of balance. You're out of balance. Come back in center. Come back in center. But but you don't listen to it, and so therefore you have physical manifestation of disease.
Yeah.
And so when I see my patients, I'm treating them in the regular traditional medicine standpoint, whether it's medications or procedures and so on. But I also add that as a layer when I talk to them and try to explore. Okay, what else happened? Well, what eventually caused this? Yes, unfortunately, you had this heart attack, but what else was the inciting factor? What else
Mm.
was going on in your life that eventually led to this? Because we know that someone who ends up having uh, a heart attack is because of a plaque rupture. Well, what caused that plaque to rupture? It was stable all this time,
Yeah.
but then something caused it to happen. Why did you finally build up that plaque? Right? So one will say, well, it's cholesterol, eating habit, dietary issues, lack of exercise, let's say smoking, diabetes, high blood pressure. These are all the other cardiac risk factors for developing heart disease. Okay, fine. But why were you engaged in those kinds of activities? What caused you to end up having diabetes? What caused you to have, not being able to understand and have conflict with your external environment, therefore causing now internal high blood pressure, showing that you were out of balance with your external environment.
Yeah.
So systematically using disease to be able to find what happened and be able to then help and go back and clear that weed, and eventually by going back to the seed that caused it in the first place. You clear
Wow.
the seed, you clear the weed.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. Are you like, do you have a private practice? Are you in a hospital? Like I'm
So
imagining. Yeah, tell me about that. I'm curious.
I'm part of a group of cardiologists, and everybody else is also just traditional cardiologists, and we handle different aspects of cardiology, right? Heart failure, interventional, peripheral vascular, general cardiology, and so on. Um, and what I do in terms of this other aspect is I sort of just gently blend that into the practice with the patients. You don't often get enough time to be able to do all that. You've got your 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, to deal with patients in a certain fashion. And I do that. But then if it needs to be explored further, and people come to me otherwise too to explore other ailments, then we do sessions, in the evening or weekends or whatever the case is. And then,
Interesting.
sometimes I do courses and teach people as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to imagine, like, are you like what's the scenario for me? Am I going into a doctor's office and all of a sudden they're like, yes, Greg, you know what? You got this, you got the throat culture, you have strep, and would you like to have your palm read? Like that's what I'm like, is that what you're doing? Or
no.
yeah, which I don't think it's quite that, but I'm also wondering, like is it do people know what they're getting before they go into you? Like do they, do the other
No.
are the cardiologists going like, hey, here's the intuitive guy. You should go to that guy. Like what is the experience for the patient?
So very interesting. So let's explore that a little bit further. So when people usually come to me from a traditional medicine standpoint, they'll just see me for the traditional medicine aspect. I will
Yeah.
blend in because we've got various tools available, right? There are all sorts of tools that I've learned myself. There's the energy healing apart from regular cardiology, pharmacia,
Yeah.
procedures. But there are other things that I have studied over the last 10 years. Energy healing. I've studied, um, perception integration, human behavior, and I integrate all those in some fashion, ever so slightly. But yet, if they truly want to have an experience and to be able to break down of what's really going on in their lives and explore how to get fully empowered in their lives and how to, recreate their lives, as it were, then I go into the life architecture aspect of it, which
Yeah.
is those are the private sessions, but not in the regular traditional standpoint. So somebody who's coming to see me in the traditional medicine standpoint, they're not expecting to get the other aspect. They're expecting to see the just traditional doc, which they are. But then there's always that little hint of something additional that I can add to them, because
Interesting.
it's not it's integrating all sides of medicine and healing, because healing is not just, here's going to take a pill and that's it, and here's
Yeah.
not just, the procedure, but in the end it's a combination of everything. Healing can be simply as just sitting there and listening to somebody unload and being fully present and be able to provide them with healing. I mean, there's certain there's 6 pillars of healing. There's the enthusiasm
Mm.
and inspiration of the body. There's the love and gratitude of the heart, and certainty and presence of the mind. And so
Oh,
these are cardinal parts of your healing process. So it doesn't have to be, here's a medication, but that's the traditional medicine standpoint that has its role.
yeah.
But then if you can sit there and just simply hold space for somebody, now you've sort of entered the energetic realm of it, where you can just simply listen and be poised and present and certain and be able to help somebody.
Wow.
And sometimes all they need is just to be heard. In the end, each one of us is looking for love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each of us wishes to be witnessed for who we truly are, to acknowledged, accepted, and loved for who we are. And then in turn, offer that to somebody else. That's when you're opening up your heart. So there's no
Mm.
surprise that I'm a cardiologist, because this was something of a field of study for me for years, but I approached it from the traditional medical standpoint. And now I'm also approaching it from the other standpoint, and then integrating the two, bridging both worlds, alternative as well as the traditional,
Yeah. Do you think you get a lot of
without the palm reading.
well, no, I was gonna say, like, this is, I mean, do you get pushback in the community? Like, I would imagine some people, as liberal as Massachusetts is, where, you're there from what I believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're in Massachusetts, like, as liberal as
Yep.
they are, I
Yep.
know that people are very, like, scientific minded when it comes to medicine, and we have, like, renowned medical schools, and I know there are, like, Boston has a big Chinese medicine school, and
Mm-hmm.
there are definitely some alternative holistic healing stuff. But I'm curious about, like, in the medical community, are people like, oh, wait a minute, doctor, you need to stay with this rigorous scientific method stuff? Like, what has been your experience with that?
So, well, firstly, for those people who I can tell that who are not going to be receptive to anything else beyond whatever their standard basic concepts are, right? They don't have that level of awareness and understanding. There's no real point in trying to push the envelope in that regard. They're not coming
Mm,
to you in that time period, when they come to the office for that other level of additional healing.
yeah.
I can bring that in ever so gently by prodding their ideas and bringing their level of awareness, but I'm not charging for that part of it.
Mm,
When they are ready and they wish to explore a much deeper dive, then they can come and talk to me in that regard. So I
yeah.
keep the two essentially separate, yet at the same moment, when I see somebody, yes, I'm seeing, okay, fine, they've got the high blood pressure, they've got the kidney problem, they've got the diabetes, they've got the heart issues. Great. I can help you with all that stuff. But I'm also seeing heart issues, not living an inspired life, kidney problems, you've been living with lots of fears. Oh, you got all kinds of joint problems and arthritic issues. Which aspect of the world around you are you? Is your body now attacking yourself? Your immune system is now attacking itself because you're not willing to stay in balance with everything else that's around you. right? Well, when you're having your diabetes, where are you being more prideful? Where are you being more infatuated with yourself? Where are you actually holding guilt and shame? And looking
Mm,
other aspects of all that.
yeah.
So
That's
when I see somebody, I'm already seeing all these various elements, and if ever need be, I'll start tweaking and unraveling. Healing is a beautiful art. The other day, I teach students as well, whether it's fellows or medical students or physician assistant students, nurse practitioner students. And with me in the office, I've got recently, I've got physician assistants with me, and I've been teaching these students, and then I've been showing them that it's not just about the science of medicine,
mm.
it's the art of medicine.
Oh, that's
And
very
the
interesting.
art is actually where much of the healing truly happens. It's not just the science. The science is important, absolutely, but it's the art that gets you to the next quantum field. That's what gets you to the next quantum level of healing.
Wow. Wow. Are you speaking to like I know, I mean, that's how Deepak Chopra got famous, the book Quantum Healing. Is it related to that at all, or is this like a totally different thing? Because I've never understood what exactly how would you define quantum healing?
Quantum healing, at least from my perspective, is being able to dive deeper into not only just your soul, but all your various bodies. Not just your physical body. There are other realms that you exist in, and be able to synthesize all of this together, and not just because we can see, we say, oh well, this is my physical body, right? These are my shirt, my tie, this is who I am, right? This is the physical manifestation. But there's a lot more to this at a cellular level, and each of
Mm,
these cells resonate energy. So therefore you essentially are also resonating energy outwards, and you
right.
therefore create different kinds of bodies. Now you talked about chakras, so chakras essentially are energy centers, but I'm talking about other bodies that you have as well. So you've got your emotional body, your relationship body, your spiritual body, your mental body, just not your physical form.
Yeah.
As we connect back into into the universe, you've got all these different layers and sub layers and subatomic layers, and you're part of all of this. We're not individual beings just roaming around like sacks of meat. We're essentially, completely integrated with everything that there is in nature. It's our perceptions that we believe that we are individual and that we're not connected and we are divorced from everything. And there's the I, versus discovering that there is no self and you are fully integrated with everything that there is around you. And your energy corresponds to everything around you. Example. So when you walk into a room, right? You'll automatically gravitate to certain people,
Mm,
or you will still pull away from certain people, right? Energetically, there's a communication going on at a very deep quantum cellular level. And there are some people you don't want to have that relationship because they're generating certain kinds of energetic fields that you wish not be drawn into. And there are certain people who are generating beautiful magnetism that you want to be drawn into.
mm-hmm.
That's all happening at that level. So healing is starting not just at the physical body level, because that's just one aspect of it. It's all these other layers that have interactions with. And healing
Wow.
is essentially, in my opinion, getting things back into alignment. Mind, body, spirit, heart, everything gets back into full alignment.
Yeah.
Shamans will use their techniques. Energy healers will use their techniques. Physicians will use their techniques with psych medications, trying to get your mind into some degree of stability so that you can then be able to function, right? But in the end, it's medications are just simply going to be altering your brain chemistry, your physiology, your hormones, your cell communication, as it were. It's an exogenous form of manipulation. I would like to explore not just exogenous, but also the endogenous. So you have the ability to heal yourself. And that's
Mm,
the beautiful aspect of our human body. We've been given the gift to be able to heal ourselves. When you cut yourself, you heal. You will
yeah.
close that the wound off.
Interesting. Are you one of these people that sees, I've always wondered how far psychosomatic stuff extends to. Like, I've never quite understood. Like, I know there's, in hypnosis, certainly there are some things that you can clear up by examining the core wound when you were a kid and stuff like that. I mean, we talk about it all the time in the realm of regression and sometimes even past life
Hmm.
regression, stuff like that. Um, what is going on with like terminal cancer? Like, in your opinion, like stuff that is like a terminal illness, I mean, is it always psychosomatic? Is it something unresolved? Like, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but I am kind of curious, in your experience, a terminal illness, how does that relate to something going on in this energetic field, I guess?
So if you ever met Dr. John D. Martini, is a lovely mentor and teacher, and there's been a lot of stuff that he's been teaching as well, and from quite a bit of research that he's done to discover when it comes to cancer, cells regress back to a primitive form.
Hmm.
And as these cells regress back to a primitive form, it's more and more because of black and white perceptions in their realities. So the more somebody believes that things are just white and black, so the more their cells go back into more primitive forms, and those primitive forms are not compatible with their current physiology in the evolution of their own cell lines. So it regresses back further and further and further until the point that now you've got a cancer. So in the concept of cancer, the the terminal aspect is that you've got a complete extreme, and your body's been trying to bring you back into alignment with all these little whispers in your thoughts, ideas. The universe will speak to you in different forms, and you just don't keep on listening, and finally you end up with the cancer because your body is trying to repair itself, and it has the ability to do so. But when your mind, that is so powerful, doesn't let you, right? It doesn't allow the body to do so, or rather, you yourself do not listen. You
Hmm.
eventually regress back further and further. But there've been people who've, if you look at the literature on prayer, right? There's a lot of stuff out there where people have done very intense praying, not only for themselves or for that matter for other people.
Mm-hmm.
There have been cardiology studies. The Chennai Heart study also showed a lot about the healing, the very healing aspect of global prayer, and showing that there is difference, and we know that if your parents, let's say, or your family and loved ones or whatnot, when you're sick and they sit down and pray, right, they may be praying to some anthropomorphic deity, or they may be praying to the universe, they may be praying to source, they may be praying to their ancestors in the shaman community, whatever the case might be, right? They're connecting back to some sort of energetic field, and that
Mm.
field is an intelligence, it's an alive field. And if you allow yourself to be able to connect to that field as well, you've got access to that too. And therefore, be able to heal yourself. So in prayer, for example, there are people who've had terminal cancer. People have prayed, and next thing you know, the doctors have got, I don't know where the cancer went. I don't know whatever happened, right? So
Mm.
we've got plenty of these stories. Of course, it's not talked about in your scientific journals and literature, because in a clinical trial, that would never fly.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's just one aspect of looking at it. So, my take on clinical trials, I mean, clinical trials are important, but in any clinical trial, if you truly take a look and see what it takes to be put into a clinical trial, less than 3% of a real world population actually ever fit into a clinical trial. So
Hmm.
that tells me that the medications and whatever that have been, that are out there, we know that they work, but they were clinically tried in patients who were 3% of a real world population. I deal with the rest of the 97% of people. So
Interesting.
I've got to make decisions of what to do with it with somebody with medication who may not have ever fit that trial. Like
Yeah.
the 95-year-old who's got an irregular heartbeat, who needs to be on a blood thinner. Well, that person never sat in a clinical trial.
Hmm.
So similarly, if we're all practicing medicine in that regard of having to not just use, we're following clinical trials. On one hand, that's the hypocrisy part. We keep saying we've got to follow the clinical trials, we've got to follow the evidence. Great, but the people don't fit into the evidence. You've got to, every single human being is unique.
Hmm.
So if that's the dictum that we're going to take, then in that case, then what about all the other modalities? And that's why I find that I cannot discount all the other aspects of healing, such as energy healing, any because I've seen people who had energy medicine, treatments, and they actually get better. I can't explain it from a traditional medicine standpoint, which is the reason why I started to explore all this.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna
it's
ask how you got in. I mean, I'm wondering if you did have like an aha moment because I mean, your bedside manner is great. I'm listening to you like, okay, I could get surgery from this guy, and also he's talking to me about like my external like I know he does angelic Reiki. Like what? But like, yeah, did was there a moment like okay? How about let me put it this way, were you always on the path to doing this from childhood, or did was there like some sort of transformation where all of a sudden you were like, oh, this is a rabbit hole that's deeper than I thought?
I would say the answer is yes to both. So I would say that you're always on your path. It's just
Mm,
that when you're on your path, sometimes you can't see it through your own judgments, your own mindsets, through whatever aspect or whatever's going on in your life.
yeah,
When you're subjecting yourself to whatever the opinions are of others, right? Whether it's your teachers, your church, state, anything external, right? Your parents, your immediate environment, your peers. You're always subject to somebody's ideas and concepts. So that kind of fogs the mind, and when that
mm,
fogs the mind, it closes up the heart. When that closes up the heart, you're not able to truly shine your light. When you're able to then be able to have clarity in what's going on, your mind comes back into alignment, you remain fully balanced, you're able to see things around you with full gratitude and balance, you start opening up your heart, and then shine your light on your path. And you discover you've always been on the path that you wanted to go in the first place.
mm.
And so you
Oh
continue on this
yeah,
path. So one would say that those moments when the light shines, you become enlightened, you awake, right? So I would say that on my path, I have had numerous awakenings and spiritual awakenings and energetic awakenings. But I was doing traditional. So my aspect was that I was doing traditional medicine and cardiology for a number of years, and just getting tired and exhausted of the same mundane bureaucracy and hypocrisy. And finally, it was almost like everybody's just like a piece of meat on an assembly line, and that's not what I wanted to do.
hmm,
And so I started delving. Okay, what else was going on? But I actually started off with my own inner journey because I became negative. I became very heavy set. My eating habits were bad. I was exhausted, overweight, not exercising. And then finally, I just was fed up and I was becoming more and more negative. And then at some point, I think my intuition was always trying to bring me back into balance, but I wasn't listening. Then finally, when my health started deteriorating, I started listening. And then I changed my diet, then changed my overall habits, started exercising for the first time in my life properly, doing the things I would tell all my patients to go do. So there's
yeah,
nothing that I tell my patients to do, whether it's like lifestyle modification, that I have not done for myself. And
mm,
so I started going on that path, and then more meditation, and then inquiring more and more what was going on, and then having a series of books show up that would suddenly like, oh my God, I read that, and it was just trying to spark something in the middle of the night. And then I would have daytime awakenings, where I'm driving and I'm having this very powerful download, as it were. And it was, and I had to pull to the side of the road and just feel it, experience it. And it was like I wasn't even thinking about anything, but it just happened. But then right after that, be able to have beautiful insights and being able to see the cosmic pattern in greater vistas. But
Wow.
every time those downloads had to happen. But then after those downloads happened, I had to rest. It was a cyclical aspect of it. You know,
Hmm.
we climb a rut on the ladder, and then we have to pause, and then we synthesize who we are. We take in the energy, and then we move to the next level, and the next level, and that's and this and then you discover this that you're actually really on this very beautiful journey your entire life. And so that essentially has been my journey. And while I kept on having these series of awakenings, I was trying to understand these awakenings, and then I came across shamans who I decided to learn from, energy healers, um, human behavioral specialists like, for example, Dr. John D. Martini. Then I kept on reading and reading and reading, books after books, just trying to understand and comprehend. And the more I started to understand, learn, my left brain, my right brain started synthesizing, contemplating, and along with meditation, and then starting moving forward. So on the
Wow.
way, accumulating lots of new skills and having a better
Yeah.
appreciation for how healing can really happen.
Interesting. Yeah, the word intuitive is what kind of intrigued me because, on one level, like I'd be like, okay, if you're asking people like, what is the source of this, then I'd be like, okay, maybe you're just a cardiologist therapist or something like that. Um, but then, like you're telling me you're seeing other bodies. Where does the intuition come into it for you? Like, was it just something that you discovered was always there? Like, and also, what's a practical example of that? Because I'm almost imagining like Edgar Casey kind of stuff where you like can pinpoint exactly what the issue is and come up with like here, do this, this, and this, and you're going to be healed. Like, that's kind of like the
Well, that's
closest reference that I have for
well.
it.
Edgar Casey was an amazing being. He was um, he truly had a gift, but that was using insights, and some of it was also intuition, right? He was able to channel. He was able to tap into his own gifts. But intuition, we all have our intuition.
Mm,
So when we are trying to regulate our nervous system, right? We've got impulse and instincts. Impulse, we move towards something, and instincts, we are trying to escape away from.
right.
Right? Impulse, we are trying to move towards a prey, and an instinct, we're trying to escape from predator. Intuition is balanced. It sees both sides of the equation. It is the little voice that is whispering and telling you and guiding you to what is going to happen next. And the heart is very beautiful in being able to do that. We've been able to see through studies that that the heart can essentially precog just
Hmm.
before, it's almost like precognition before an event happens. That's your true intuition. That's coming from your heart space, not from your mind, impulse, not coming from your gut, which is the instinct. So
Mm,
it's not an aspect of when I'm seeing a patient, I am not downloading information, as it were, but by becoming fully present in that moment, your presence becomes wide and expansive. They now also step into being fully present and in that moment, and their energy level expands. And now you've got two energy fields that are intertwined, as it were. And it's not that I am now pushing and causing necessarily and saying, well, that was the issue. It's holding space and listening to what they have to say. And when that ends up happening and we're both aligned, they themselves are also now seeing their own wisdom
mm.
and now being able to open themselves up. I'm holding space for the energetics for that to happen.
Wow. I'm wondering, okay, now let's go really into it. Like we started with the skeptical Greg. Now let's go into like the really weird. What's the wildest thing that has happened in this heart space? Because to me, I feel like if we're talking like pure third eye astral projection, like, oh yeah, maybe you see in the person's childhood the mother when they were 3 years old, da da da. Da. But when I imagine the heart space, it feels a little less like, I don't know, paranormal, supernatural, like a little more like supportive and healing and synesthesia. Maybe we all see colors. Like, what would you say, at risk of your medical license, sir? No, you don't have to risk that. But in general, like, what's like the story that you're like, Greg, this to me, I was with a patient, I connected with hearts, and all of a sudden we were teleported into another universe. What would you say? There's got to be like, I know there's something. There's got to be a really weird experience that you had that is undeniably spiritual and undeniably quote unquote supernatural.
Well, what is supernatural? Supernatural is simply that which we don't understand in the natural, right? It's supernatural essentially is connecting other aspects that you just cannot see. Natural is what we can see, feel, touch through our senses, through our five
Mm,
senses. Using your intuition, you're accessing all your senses. Remember, along with your we've got 140 plus senses. We don't have just five, because now if you add your immunology to this, all all your receptors, your little mitochondria, your every aspect of it within every cell is now becoming like a self-receptor, and it's
oh.
connecting to everything and expansive. So for the example that I would give you is simply, it wasn't a terrestrial, it was simply, I was completely in sync with that person. Our breathing was synced. We were just simply sitting there. I was holding space for them until their jostling of their atomic structure finally came to some degree of congruency and coherence and stopped. And we were both exactly in the same space. And they just started bawling
Mm,
because they were able, and they figured out what the problem was. All I simply did was ask the question. And we just waited. And it wasn't like, okay, now we're going to sit here in a seance. And now we're going to do this.
yeah.
Or it was nothing like that at all. It was simply holding space for that person to be able to come and oscillate at the frequency and resonate at the frequency of their heart, because all wisdom lies there. And you were saying about the whole universe and so on. Well, everything resonates from the heart space. So the heart's a lot of very expansive as well.
Yeah.
So we were able to connect to a very powerful level, and they just, and this has happened. There's lots of similar experiences where I'm not seeing necessarily seeing colors, but I have done that in energetics. I have seen colors. I've heard. So there's clairvoyance, there's clairaudience. There are lots of different aspects of this, and some people don't even, and there's some healers who don't even see or hear, but they feel it. So
Mm,
from my standpoint, I've done all three, but I'm not trying to do it. All I'm doing
yeah.
is I am simply being the conduit of the universe to allow them to space for them to be able to also connect to their higher self. And when they connect to their higher self, they're able to get whatever download that they need to. So
Mm,
I'm not here to get their download. I'm not channeling them, as it were. This is not a psychic experience. This is simply a heart opening and a heart centered consciousness.
wow.
And when
Wow.
that happens, they're able to then connect back to their higher self and be able to download whatever happened to them. So the example I would say was that they were sitting there, and we spoke. I stopped speaking. I just became very present. They stopped speaking. They became very present, and the transformation happened. And that's when you can feel that experience when you're in gratitude, when you're in balance. There's this something called the Martini Method, created by Dr. John Martini, and that's a tool that I've used as part of human behavior and perception integration. And when we go into this experience with an individual, we're just basically helping them balance their mind, asking a series of questions to be able to balance their mind. And when their mind is fully balanced, and they are now seeing both sides of everything, their heart opens up with gratitude. And when they open up with gratitude, the whole room opens up with gratitude. And I've been in rooms with 50 odd people in the room, and someone's having a heart opening moment in that space. The whole room, that person will tell you, whole room just went blank, and the person who they were, who originally they had a charge against, now, um, even if that person was not even in the room, all right? Let's say they had an experience about a parent or somebody, and the person's not in the room. The person in front of them becomes that parent, and they can have that gratitude moment.
Wow.
I've worked with clients where I've worked with them, got them to be in a state of gratitude. They're fully in a state of presence. Their heart is open. They are in full state of love for that, and unconditional love for that person. Interestingly enough, simultaneously they'll get a phone call from that person who's not even in the room. Could be tens, hundreds of miles away. It doesn't make a difference. We'll call them and just simply say, call that person and say, right in front of me, I've seen this. I love you. And the person may not have even spoken in God knows how long.
Wow. Are
But
you
yet, in that same moment, because each of us are quantumly entangled, and it's about untangling each other in that quantum field. But we're all connected through this beautiful quantum field, right from an atomic particle, cellular level, to the cosmic and the galactic. We're fully connected in all planes of existence, and all scales of existence.
wow, I really wonder if you made my lights go up before this interview. Yeah, doctor, I mean, this is all very fascinating. Like, I definitely am intrigued by what you're talking about here. Uh, the heart versus the gut.
Mhm.
I've always wondered what when coaches and healers talk about like follow what's in your gut versus follow what's in your heart. I feel like they're used interchangeably, and then also like follow what's in your wisdom, the crown chakra or the third eye. Um, how would you distinguish between like trusting your gut versus trusting your heart when it comes to making decisions?
Sure. So we've actually got numerous brains in this body that we inhabit. You've got the regular brain, right? That controls all the various aspects of your body, plus also it controls your mind, your thought process, and so on. But you've also got your gut, which is a brain in itself. It's loaded with bacteria, which each has a level of intelligence.
Hmm.
And so all synchronously together, they provide a beautiful network to be able to give you a level of intelligence. But you also have that level of intelligence in your heart, because the heart is able to resonate and connect. Just like I gave the example of somebody, if you go into a room and you are sort of resonating with that person, it's your heart essentially. If you've got an open heart, then you're able to resonate with another field, and
Hmm.
you're feeling that. But your brain is also generating your brain's generating a field, your gut's generating a field, your nervous system is also generating a field. Everything is generating a field. Every organ system in your body is generating a field.
Hmm.
It's synthesizing all these various organs and all their energetic fields that and becoming more in tune with all these energetic fields and feeling them and exploring them.
Yeah.
Now, what is wisdom? So knowledge is all the synthesis of data. So it's all the data that you're getting in. The synthesis of all that and how you process that and what you're going to do with it. Knowledge in action is wisdom, in my opinion. So
Hmm.
when you're accessing that wisdom, it is the inner knowing. You're connecting back to an energetic field of intelligence all around you, which already wisdom lies in it. It's you're tapping into that and then being able to bring that forth.
Wow.
There's another whole field of contemplation where in energy medicine, if you ever heard of the works of Richard Rudd, he's a philosopher, he's a poet, he's a healer, and he talks a lot about the gene keys based on your human design, and also you be able to tap into your own genetics and be able to reveal it, and through contemplation. So your left brain, so just delve in that for a second. So your left brain is your thinking, your analytical aspect of it. Your right brain is your meditative aspect, but your contemplation is the connection between the two. where
Mm.
when you're contemplating, you're allowing the answer to come to you. You're not trying to think about it and trying to analyze it. In meditation, you are returning back into a space where you can be balanced through your breathing, through your hormones, through your mind, and bring everything to an equanimous level. But it's in contemplation that you are able to bring forth that wisdom and tapping into that wisdom and being able to feel it at different levels and different frequencies, from the lowest frequency to the highest frequency.
Yeah. Wow. Why do I over contemplate? What is going on? I need help. I'm just sitting here being like, okay, I'm trying to follow my intuition right now. And my intuition is telling me that this doctor wants me to like close my eyes and meditate immediately because I need help. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really am. I'm fascinated by all this stuff. Uh, I wonder about. Well, now I have nothing to tell. Now I have nothing to say. Um,
Well,
well,
well, let me go back to a second. You said, why do I over contemplate? Let me just
yeah. Maybe
slightly.
I do need help. Yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
we all do, right? Because we're all on our own journey, and my mission has always been to help people open up their hearts so they can shine their light on their path, not on my path, not with my light, their light, in their path. So we all need help in some fashion, and
Mm,
when you said the words over contemplate, actually, I don't think you're over contemplating, you're overthinking.
mm.
But contemplation is being in a state of equanimity and being able to allow the answer to come to you. So you can't really over contemplate. You can
Oh
overthink it.
shoot! I should aspire to over contemplation. Yeah. So wait, overthinking. Yeah. What do you? How do you get an overthinking person to open their heart? Can you?
Oh, absolutely. We all have that innate gift to be able to do so. It's being able to quieten their left brain, their thinking mind, their constant noise that's going on. Because that noise, the thinking, is because they're looking for something. They're looking for something or the other, right? Their barometers, constantly going back and forth. They're trying to change frequencies too quickly on the radio. I'll give you that as an example.
Yeah.
All they're doing is going from AM to FM, and then going from like 90 from 89 all the way to 106, back and forth, back and forth. The key is to slow that pace down, to be able to go to one frequency at a time. Let me explore what 89.1 feels like. Let me feel what 89.2 feels like, 89.3 feels like, and then go through the whole spectrum of those.
Mm.
Not be just racing and playing with the dial. So basically, you slap the hand, stop playing with the dial, you're gonna go blind playing with that dial. So
Yeah.
go back and go back to every single frequency and explore each and every single frequency. What does that have to offer? What is in that static in between the frequencies? What is that wisdom that's in the in between? What's in that pause? What's in that silence? We have so much of brain noise that we forget that the answers that we're seeking is actually in the pause, not at
Oh
our
yeah.
beginning or the destination. It's in the pause itself.
That is
And to
so
be able to
good.
listen to that, hear it, feel it, let it resonate. You accept it, and you allow it, and then you embrace it. But
Mm.
all that wisdom comes from that tiny little pause.
Yeah. Whoa. It's interesting. Like your website,
Mhm.
wheelsofthemind.com. It makes me think you must have a different definition of wheels because the wheels are turning. Like that's what we hear, right? Like what is a mind wheel for you? What do you mean by that term?
Wheels of the mind essentially are, and the reason I brought that up was because my inspiration for that was there was a movie. If you remember the Thomas Crown Affair,
Yeah.
the movie. Uh, who
Pierce
is the?
Brosnan was in that,
Yes,
right?
it was the one by Pierce Brosnan. When the song is on the turning of the wheels.
Mm.
Remember that song? It just escapes me at the top of my head. I mean, I can feel it. I can see the song. But the wheels, it was just the wheels of the mind are turning. Like everything is just constantly just turning.
Yes.
And all we're doing is just constantly just turning. And the faster we keep on turning, the more chaos ensues in our lives. Where are we getting? We're like gerbils on the spinning on the wheels, and so our mind is that gerbil spinning on the wheel.
Yes.
But at some point, you've got to get off that wheel, right? The cosmic wheel, and be able to discover who you truly are. So it's about getting onto that cycle and getting off that cycle. And wheelsofthemind.com is the website, but there are deeper layers of exploration where I've created Wheels of the Heart as a program and Wheels of the Soul as a program. And those are the
Hmm.
deeper layers of of your own contemplation, your own understanding, and discovering who you truly are, and where do you sit in this whole universe, and how do you sit in this universe?
Yeah. I find it so interesting that like you started as a cardiologist, which implies to me like something isn't working with the heart. Then they go to you and you like expand off that. And then your website is called Wheels of the Mind, which is like the wheels are moving, we're all stuck in this, and then you like work on slowing things down. Like, do you think meeting people at their insanity and at their brokenness has really worked for you? Because it seems like it has. Like it's definitely, that's the way in. It's like let's start with the pain and let's fix it up. Like that's an interesting angle that you have from both fronts.
Right. Well, the thing is this: you can't have pain without pleasure in every aspect of life. Pain and pleasure are inseparable. But when you meet somebody at their pain, they're trying to avoid their pain, seek the pleasure, and you see how that's all going to then transform. You said something very beautifully a second moment ago about meeting somebody and their brokenness. I don't see people as broken. You're not broken, and you don't need to be fixed. You just don't
Mm,
realize it yet.
wow.
And it's and when we go through the whole process, or when you finally see that, and when you see that you are still that beautiful, perfect being that you are, what you came into this world with, and with those gifts, those talents, and you just have forgotten that you're actually on your path. The eyes have been closed long enough to you to forget that you're actually on your own path. But when your eyes are open, and your eyes can be only open when your mind is open, because somebody can have their eyes open but not truly see, and that happens when your mind becomes open and not remain closed. But that happens when the heart is truly open as well, because the mind has to be balanced enough for that to happen.
Yeah. Why aren't you Anthony Fauci? Like, why aren't why can't we put you in charge? What is going on? Is that the goal? Should we get rid of this guy and have you heal this situation? Like, what's going on there?
I'll happily be able to step into that role and take on that if that's the case, and if that's what's needed. But you know, one of the last bits you said about how you see things when I started off in cardiology to now, and how am I seeing things? Somebody asked me and sent me an email and said, I really enjoy your the glass is half full kind of perspective in all your emails. And I said, well, thank you very much. And this is how I replied back to them. I said, however, I am not the person who sees things as half full. I'm not the person who sees things, the glass, as half empty. I simply see love and light manifesting and masquerading as water in a glass.
Oh. Oh, whoa, whoa. That was yo, talk about like closing an open loop. My gosh, you were Dr. Nitin Bhatnagar. Check him out at wheelsofthemind.com. This has been amazing. I really love your work. I'm gonna keep following it.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been really great. I you know what? Is there anything else that I know Wheels of the Mind is probably the best place to check out your work. Um,
Right?
will we see you at
Or
a
even
White House?
Facebook.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we will link to
Yep.
your Facebook page as well. Should we expect to see you at the White House anytime soon? Do you want us to vote you in as an official?
If that is what it's called, then that will be called. If that is my destiny, and I need to be able to serve in some fashion, then I will.
I feel like you could. We should reform the entire medical profession. Like, why isn't everybody an intuitive doctor? Is that the goal?
because everybody is, so that is my goal, to be able to educate the medical community more and more about other aspects of medicine and cardiology and of healing that they've become blind to, because we currently in medicine have become so indoctrinated with that these are the tools, this is how we do it, and we've actually stopped listening to people. Yes, and this is not a blanket statement that every doctor is this and that and so on. No, absolutely. I've got colleagues who are phenomenal healers. They do listen to their patients, but in the grand scheme of things, from what I hear from patients about their own doctors, the vast majority are not listening. And because they're not listening, and they're not listening to their patients, but they're not listening actually to themselves, and they're clouding themselves with so much of judgments and so much of noise and lack of enough true understanding of what else is there. The human body is not just this piece of meat that we need to keep putting together and fixing. If we give the people and re-empower the patient to be able to heal themselves by truly teaching them how to be able to exercise, how to be able to change their lifestyle, how to be able to eat healthy, and hold them accountable, and be able to be their support, versus just being somebody who just is a pull pusher.
Yeah. I wonder how tough you are on your doctors. Do you see doctors?
You mean as patients?
Or now for you, like when you go see a medical professional, like are you like, oh, this guy is not in touch with his intuition? Sorry, sir, I'm done here. Like what's going on there?
Pretty much. I mean, I know the but back to that whole, you got that whole resonance, right? You can tell who is not, being true to who they really are, who is not being authentic. You can sense it. You can sense when somebody is not being authentic. Same as
Yeah.
with doctors. We're no special. Take us all off the pedestal. We're just another human beings providing a particular service to humanity.
Mm.
So I see no difference than a doctor than it is than the person who picks up the trash. They're providing a service. We're providing a service. Every single person is providing a service in some fashion. By
Yeah.
elevating somebody on one status, we are essentially renegating somebody from another status. I say bring everybody back on the equal level. No, I'm not talking about socialism or communism. I'm simply talking about
Yeah.
see people for who they truly are and see what they can provide. Because every human being can provide not only just a beautiful service, but be inspired to do so. If somebody is having to be motivated to go do their job, right, that requires an external prodding.
Yeah.
But if they can be inspired to do their job, that's an internal awakening.
Totally. Totally. Oh man, I need a glass of water now after all this. This is great. Yeah, Dr. Nitin Bhatnagar, thank you so much for coming on. No, really, this has been you've been awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.